I find myself losing interest in everything lately. And by that, I mean, I just kind of went through a period of time where I tried to minimize the way I consume content. And to put this in perspective, I used to spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos by content creators who would comment about political things and stuff about the stock market, probably various world events, and uh, just a lot of stuff, which probably is normal. But then at some point, I kind of thought, I don't know if this is the most edifying thing for me to spend my time on. And I want to be more in control of my time and more in control of the way I interact with technology and stuff like that. And so I just started consuming less of that kind of content. Less news, less politics, less business updates, less looking to see what the stock market is doing. And the result was I started to realize, I don't actually miss that, really. I would rather not spend my time over consuming that content. And the same sort of thing kind of happened with movies and a lot of other media. I used to spend a lot more time watching TV shows and movies and stuff like that. And I just don't really watch much movies or TV shows or anything anymore. I'll go to YouTube and sort of scroll through various things on there to see if there's something I want to watch, and quite often I don't find anything that looks interesting that I really want to see. And ever since I went through and unsubscribed from a lot of the more clickbait kind of channels and channels that focus on things that are agitating or controversial or negative, I just started to realize there's not all that much that I need to spend my time catching up on or watching or anything. In gaming, I've sort of simplified what games I play. I do play games, but I find that there's a few titles I kind of enjoy, and I don't need to play an enormous number of them to be satisfied. I don't even necessarily need to spend an enormous amount of time playing them every day to be satisfied. I do like to log into my favorite games every day and check on them and do something in those games, whether it's a city builder or an RPG or what have you. But I've just continued to find that less is more, and as a result, I don't spend much time doing a lot of these things that used to consume a lot of my time and energy. I find myself getting through a weekend and maybe I just didn't spend much time at all looking at my phone anymore. I don't necessarily want to see what's going on Reddit particularly or whatever, because it tends to be kind of negative. People tend to be contentious. They tend to be, sort of, I guess, oftentimes rude or egotistical or something. So, I don't necessarily feel like I need to devote my time to that, And it's not that I've, really said I absolutely won't do these things ever again. It's just, I guess once you take a break from something, sometimes it's easy to think to yourself, that you don't really miss it. And you thought you would miss it when you were doing it, but does it really make your life better? You know, negative content, clickbait, all kinds of always watching a video, always engaging with some kind of content, just feeling like you can't afford to not be always consuming something. Like, it's just interesting though to think about how, I guess, empty my life has come to feel in many ways, because when you take away all those distractions, when you take away all the stuff that makes you feel sort of fake busy, then you wind up with all this extra time, and it's time to think, it's time to be alone with yourself. It's time to just kind of be present. And at first, I think you go through a period of time when you just don't really know what to do with yourself, I guess, because we all think we're super busy all the time, but the reality is we're actually just probably more bored, but we always consume something. So we feel like as long as there's an endless feed of infinite content out there for us to keep scrolling through, we're always going to be busy because we're never going to be able to get through it all. But once we give that up and we start figuring out, what really matters, what really doesn't, then there's a bunch of time, and then we can start thinking about other priorities to add into our lives. I think the nice thing about that is it gives you an opportunity to be, an empty glass ready to be filled, right? You can't fill something that's already full because, there's no more room in it. But when you make room and you make time in your life, then you do have the ability to be there for other people and to be available. And, if good things could come your way, to be able to receive that, that's important. Because you never really know when maybe something good will come into your life, maybe a new relationship or a new friendship or some new work opportunity or something. But if you are always busy, if you're always consuming stuff, well, you'll never have time for all of those extra things because you're too busy being busy to make time for all the things in between. So I think it's interesting though how quiet life can be and how much you can give up and not really miss it. And I guess it's sort of an awakening in a way. It's sort of like being in the Matrix your whole life. And then you find out the truth, that it's all sort of an artificial construct. None of it's really real. And you're a real person in a sea of NPCs that are going about their lives with their noses buried in a phone or something like that. You start to feel like maybe you've woken up in a way and everyone else is just asleep. But then, what would you do? What would you do if you were the only person awake in the world and everyone else was not really there anymore? What would you do if you were alone in the world? I don't know. I guess you would just get to know yourself better, appreciate the beauty of the world just for what it is without any particular need for interpretation. Maybe that's one thing that we miss in life. We tend to look at everything through the lens of what other people are going to think about it. We always want to share what we're doing. We always want to get validation as we do it. And there really isn't a need for that. All there really is a need for is to enjoy the life that we've been given right now and in this moment, to enjoy the rest we get when we go to sleep at night, to enjoy the liveliness of a fresh cup of coffee in the morning when we wake up, to enjoy the beauty of nature, to enjoy the craftsmanship of things that are made by people who are creative, to appreciate literature and all of those things. Somebody said that there was this moment when, early man back in the Stone Age realized that he didn't have to necessarily spend his life chasing food and being chased by predators, and there's a way to avoid that never-ending rat race of fighting for survival to be something more. And that was the beginning of civilization, when we realized that there's a way for us to focus on something other than mere survival, to think and to be not just the sum of our parts, but the sum of our thoughts, to be able to contemplate deeper, higher things. That's what life really is all about. And I think that we struggle to think about those questions. What sort of a person am I? What is my identity? We don't question it because we're too busy thinking about all of the things maybe that don't matter, all of the things that other people have to say, all of the things people might be thinking, all of the random noise, all of that, the stuff on our social media, on the news, and all of the stuff that's there to entertain us. We have a never-ending stream of it. And yet, it can leave us feeling empty. Maybe it's better to just sometimes genuinely be empty. Don't worry about filling up all of the space. Just let yourself be empty. And then in that empty garden, you wind up having the opportunity for something beautiful to grow. And that's what life's all about. Figuring out how to give up all the stuff that doesn't really matter. Then learning how to be comfortable with silence. And after all of that, when you learn how to be content with silence, then the universe gives us that still small voice that maybe gives us a clue about where we're supposed to go next. And I suppose along those lines, I would be inclined to think about the synchronicity of life. Is it possible that we are given clues to something meaningful, that life is actually trying to push us on some sort of a trajectory for a purpose? I don't know. I like to think that it does, though. Maybe we are part of something greater than ourselves, and the universe is just waiting for us to stop being so busy so that we can listen to the whispering of the forces of nature around us. Maybe we're closer to being found than we realize in those moments of life. We feel lost or alone, confused in some particular way. Sometimes I like to think about how it's impossible to know how close you are to success. You can think that you're very far away from a breakthrough, and then next thing you know, you come out on the other side. sort of like hiking in a park in the city, and you're surrounded by trees and wilderness, and you think that you're so far away from home. And then you come out of the trees, and it turns out that you're not very far away from civilization at all. You're actually just, in the bushes behind the mall or something. But if you don't know where you're at, then you might feel like you're very much far away from civilization when you're actually very close to your own back door. But you can't really be found until you're lost, right? That's part of the experience of life, that we're supposed to be lost sometimes. We're supposed to maybe accept being lost, because it isn't until you get to that place of abandon that you can actually truly move forward in a new direction. But a lot of us don't want to be lost, so even if we are, we'd rather pretend we're not. We'd rather lie to ourselves than face the reality of knowing that we're vulnerable, acknowledging that. Life's filled with opportunities for us to face the realities and chart a new course. I guess that's the question, isn't it? Are we going to be courageous enough to chart a new course, to go to a new place, to walk away from the things that have held us back in the past and face that daunting, frightening reality of being alone in the world? Do we have the courage to be alone, or would we rather just go through the motions of having familiar, comforting illusions to keep the fear of loneliness and emptiness at bay? I think it's better to venture out, isn't it? Sort of like Call of the Wild by Jack London, about the dog who was out there in the Alaskan wilderness. Said faithfulness and devotion were his, things of fire and ruth. And yet he retained his wildness and his wiliness, and deep within the forest a call still sounded. And, he was meant to go live a life in the wild. He knew it. He knew it deep down inside, that he was supposed to go somewhere and go join the pack and be a wild wolf. But he had that domestication in it. And he didn't really want to leave the hearth, the comfort, the familiarity. He wanted to be a domestic dog, but he knew he was meant to be something more. And so one day he went off to heed that call of the wild. And as sad as it was for him to leave behind those old familiar haunts, it was what he was meant to do. To go be wild, to heed the call. I think that's in all of us, the need to venture out, to be wild, to break the chains, the shackles, find a new path. But it's frightening. So we like to fill up all of our space with noise. But in the end, I think usually when people give up things and find a new way forward, usually they don't regret it. Usually you'll find more people who say, I'm glad that I went a new way. I'm glad that I found a new path. I'm glad that I gave up some sort of a addiction, or gave up a toxic career, or gave up an abusive relationship, or whatever it might be. It's when you allow yourself to be empty that you can finally be made any case, wherever you find yourself, good luck on your adventure. Until next time, thanks so much for watching.